The winter morning in Hangu, Pakistan, was calm and bright, the kind of morning that made even the cold air feel alive. The dusty road leading to Government High School Ibrahimzai was filled with the sound of laughter and chatter, as students in sweaters and scarves made their way toward the building. Their shoes kicked up small clouds of dust that glowed softly in the sunlight. Among them was a tall 15-year-old boy with a confident stride and warm brown eyes, Aitzaz Hasan. His school bag hung loosely over one shoulder, a few books sticking out, the edges worn from use. He laughed with his friends, teasing one of them for being late again. There was no hint that this ordinary morning would soon turn into something unforgettable, something tragic yet heroic. As the students approached the school gate, they could hear the faint echo of the morning bell from inside. The flag outside fluttered lazily in the cold breeze. A group of younger students were already lined up in the courtyard, reciting their morning prayers. The air smelled faintly of chalk dust and earth. The world felt normal, ordinary, even. But from the edge of the dusty road came a man walking alone, wrapped in a large, heavy coat that didn't match the mild chill of the morning. His steps were uneven, hesitant, as though he was uncertain about where to go. The man's face was tense, eyes darting left and right, his hands buried deep inside his pockets. Aitzaz noticed him first. Something about the stranger seemed off, the way he avoided eye contact, the way he kept glancing toward the school gate. Aitzaz's friends barely noticed, they were busy joking about the upcoming test. But Aitzaz kept his gaze fixed on the man. As the stranger drew closer, Aitzaz could see the faint outline of something metallic under the coat, wires glinting when the fabric shifted in the sunlight. His heart tightened. He didn't fully understand what he was seeing, but he knew something was wrong. The laughter of his friends faded in his ears, replaced by a dull thud of his heartbeat. The man came within a few meters of the gate. Aitzaz took a cautious step forward. "Stop," he called out, his voice firm but not loud enough to draw attention from inside the school. The man froze for a second and looked up. His eyes were wild, frightened, and determined all at once. "Move aside, boy," the man muttered, his voice trembling slightly. "I need to go inside." Aitzaz stood his ground. His friends began to whisper urgently behind him. "Come on, let's go inside." "It's not our problem," one of them said nervously. But Aitzaz didn't move. He looked past the stranger toward the gate, toward the hundreds of students inside, sitting in classrooms, unaware of what was coming. In that moment, time seemed to slow. The world around him, the laughter, the cold air, the rustling leaves, all faded. All that remained was a boy and a man, standing a few steps apart, the air between them heavy with danger. Aitzaz could see it now, the vest strapped to the man's chest, the faint glimmer of metal and wires hidden beneath layers of fabric. His throat went dry, but his mind was clear. He knew what this meant. He knew what would happen if that man took even a few more steps. The thought of his classmates, his teachers, his younger cousins who studied inside, it filled him with a fierce determination. He could run, he could hide, but then, who would stop this man? The man took another step forward, muttering something under his breath, perhaps a prayer or a final thought. Aitzaz clenched his fists. Fear gripped him like ice, but courage burned brighter. In a split second, he made his decision, not with words, not with thought, but with instinct. His legs moved before his mind could stop them. He ran forward, straight at the man, shouting for his friends to stay back. The next few seconds were chaos. The bomber's eyes widened in shock as he realized the boy was charging at him. He stumbled backward, fumbling to reach the trigger. Aitzaz collided with him, trying to push him away from the gate, from the school. The two struggled in the dirt, the man trying to break free, Aitzaz grabbing at his arms, shouting, "You won't go inside. You won't." The sound of scuffling feet echoed in the still morning air. A few students near the gate screamed and ran back inside. And then, in one blinding instant, the world exploded. A deafening boom ripped through the silence, a shockwave of dust and light and sound. The explosion tore through the air, shaking the ground. Birds scattered into the sky in panic, and a dark cloud of smoke rose above the road. For a moment, everything was still. The laughter, the morning chatter, the echo of the bell, all of it vanished, replaced by a ringing silence. When the dust began to settle, people came running from every direction. Teachers, students, townsfolk, they all rushed toward the gate, their faces pale with horror. Where Aitzaz had stood moments ago, there was now a crater of burnt earth and scattered debris. A torn school bag lay a few feet away, its contents spilled across the ground, a notebook, a few pens, a broken ruler. The school gate itself stood firm, untouched. Behind it, hundreds of children stood frozen, alive, their faces filled with shock and disbelief. Someone whispered his name, Aitzaz, and then another voice cried out. Slowly, the truth began to sink in. The bomber had never reached the school. The explosion had happened outside, on the very spot where Aitzaz had tackled him. His friends stood motionless, their eyes wet with tears, unable to comprehend what had just happened. The teachers gathered near the gate, some weeping, some silently praying. The realization spread like a wave, that one boy's courage had stopped a massacre. In the hours that followed, the news would travel across Pakistan, and later, across the world. But in that moment, all that existed was the quiet aftermath, the faint smell of smoke, the sound of wind rustling through the trees, the sight of scattered papers dancing in the air like lost memories. The sky above was still blue, still calm, as if unaware of the sacrifice that had just taken place beneath it. Later that day, people from the village would come to stand outside the school gate. Some would bring flowers, others would bring their children, pointing to the place and whispering, "This is where he saved them." The students would return to class in the following days, their desks still filled with books, their laughter slowly returning, but the space outside the gate would always feel sacred. It was where a 15-year-old boy had faced death with the heart of a hero. No one could truly know what went through Aitzaz's mind in those final moments, whether he thought of his family, his friends, or the students behind the gate. But what everyone knew was that he had acted without hesitation, guided by something pure and selfless. In those few seconds, he had chosen to give up his own life so that hundreds of others could live. His courage was not born of recklessness but of love, love for his school, for his friends, for the simple right of every child to live another ordinary morning. As the sun began to set that day, casting long shadows across the empty road, the wind carried with it a quiet sorrow, but also pride. In the heart of Hangu, where tragedy had nearly struck, there now stood a story of incredible bravery. And though Aitzaz Hasan's body was gone, his spirit remained, echoing in the laughter of the students who walked through that same gate every morning, safe because of him. His act was not just a moment of courage, it was a reminder that true heroism can come from the unlikeliest of places, from a boy in a school uniform who chose to face fear with faith, and darkness with light.